What's up everybody, welcome back to Double T Gaming. Hope everyone is having a great day today. And on this day, I'm going to go ahead and just revisit the same video I made a few weeks back, and that is the truth about Bronzebeard. I've gotten a lot of comments on that video recently, and because of that, I wanted to rehash my thoughts about Bronzebeard and give you my honest opinion now that we are a few days past launch. And in that video, I was a bit more wary of the cash shop and the level scaling and just the overall feel of the game. But again, now that we are post-launch, I wanted to give you my updated thoughts on it. So this is the new truth about Bronzebeard. But first, if you haven't already, hit that like button and sub to the channel for all things Classic Plus. I try to cover all servers between Turtle, Epoch, Bronzebeard, and anything Blizzard legal related. But anyway, I'll go ahead and just start the video with my initial thoughts on Bronzebeard before I dive more into it, because I think I do have a habit of rambling a little bit too much. But to sum up as best I can in just a sentence or two, Bronzebeard feels like I have the Cataclysm style gameplay with Wrath talents in the original and enhanced vanilla world with advanced mobility. And I can totally see both sides as to why that isn't everyone's cup of tea. And real quick, whenever I'm on stream, I always get the question as to how many people are actually online on Bronzebeard, so the player count. And on Bronzebeard, all of Ascension, there is no way to tell the total player count like there is on Epoch and Turtle. Dash Who has been disabled on all of Ascension, and it's been disabled for a while to discourage player hunting, I believe, for high risk mode. And there is no .server info command at all. So there is no way of knowing how many players are online. The only thing we do know is that Dutch has said that the server can hold roughly 10,000 people on it, and that cap has since been increased greatly. And even on launch day, a second server was opening up as a queue had hit over 9,000 at one point on Bronzebeard. So that second server, Malfurion, will merge with Bronzebeard, and Dutch recently said that this would probably happen within the week. So everyone playing Ascension will be on the same server here soon. But now let me go ahead and break my thoughts down on the sentence I said earlier on how Bronzebeard overall feels. When I say Cataclysm style gameplay, it's a lot more fast paced than I'd say vanilla was. Not quite to the level of retail WoW, but I really equate it to how it felt playing Cata prior to getting into the 80 to 85 content. So like basically leveling in Cata in the old world. It has a very go 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 mentality. And that's not to say leveling is a piece of cake. The mobs on Bronzebeard are more difficult and have been buffed greatly to combat the advanced abilities that we have, as well as the player power from gearing. So even in solo content, if you pull too many and you're not paying attention, you'd still find yourself maybe in a dangerous situation. But now when I think of actual vanilla combat, I think of it as very slow paced, very methodical, almost like when you're in combat, every button you hit matters a little bit more. When I'm leveling on Bronzebeard though, I feel like I have the ability to go 100 miles a minute versus a mile a minute in vanilla. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. To be honest, I like the faster paced combat. I've played vanilla style combat hundreds of times now, and as great as vanilla is, at least in my opinion, it can get to be a bit tedious and easy to get burned out after a while. But on Bronzebeard, it gives me the opposite feeling. The combat is just fast enough and just difficult enough to work for me. And this all falls under the Wrath talent system with some advanced glyph type abilities and crossover talents in the Mystic enchantment system. And a quick TLDR of Mystic enchantments, they're basically like glyphs from future versions of WoW, or similar to how runes worked in Season of Discovery. Just bonus abilities or passive effects on top of existing spells, along with crossover talents to let you dip into other specs without spending points into them. So just an example of a Mystic enchantment is the Legendary Paladin rune that basically lets you seal twist without having to time your attacks up just right. And you have Mystic enchantments of multiple rarities from rare to legendary, along with an artifact type utility enchantment. I think it's a really neat mechanic and it gives you some more complexity in your builds, but because of the style of combat and the added Mystic enchantment system, a lot of people aren't calling this Classic Plus at all. Most people equate it to a retail minus. And honestly, that's a totally valid take. My only argument against that is that everyone considers Classic Plus to be something different, and there isn't one set definition of it. So in some people's eyes, this fits perfectly into their idea of Classic Plus, just an overall faster, enhanced version of vanilla with proven talents that people like, being Wrath of the Lich King, which is popularly known as one of the better WoW expansions. So now let me give you a rundown on my thoughts of some of the more controversial features this server offers, starting with the big one, like I mentioned earlier, the cash shop. Now I made an entire video on whether or not I thought Ascension WoW was pay to win, and it sparked some good talk in the comments. Of course, it also sparked some arguments, but at the end of the day, in my honest opinion, at this moment in time on the server, I don't think Bronzebeard is a pay to win server, but I think it has the potential to teeter a little bit on that line going forward. And it comes down to the same way I talk about Classic Plus, and that is what you consider to be pay to win. Some people have a hard stance on it, that any item that lets you skip any type of grind or lets you save time is considered pay to win. Others see pay to win as direct player power, like buying gear is the only thing that's pay to win. And to be fair, straight out, in the Ascension shop, there is no item that you can buy that gives you you direct player power or immediately helps you clear a raid or dungeon. Are there items that help you get there? Sure. I think being able to max out a profession and being able to have more than 2 primary professions are teetering on that line a little bit. Now I will say on Bronzebeard, there are no profession bonuses, so no like stamina for mining or no healing over time effect for alchemy, nothing like that. But even so, with these professions, you still need to grind out the mats and do the crafting, and there is still some time you have to sink into the game no matter the item that you do buy on the shop. And as of right now, at this moment in time, pretty much the entire shop is unavailable until every profession has been maxed, so like all the world firsts have been obtained, or until you hit level 60 personally in terms of buying heirlooms, or until there are enough level 60s in terms of the experience auras. And everything that is on the shop can be bought and sold on the auction house, as well as most of them being purchasable from an actual vendor for runes of Ascension or gold if I'm not mistaken. But a lot of people are immediately turned off from the server because there is a cash shop. I'm not here to convince you one way or the other if it's pay to win, other than giving my opinion on it. What I will say, in the time that I have played on the server so far, I have not been able to tell whether or not someone has bought a war chest bundle. At least right now, everyone is on the same playing field. Now moving on to the next big thing I always see in the comments is mounting. On Bronzebeard, you can get a mount as early as level 6. In Goldshire or Razor Hill, or whatever your middle city is for your race, there is a riding trainer that offers novice training for 40% movement speed for free, and also gives you the actual mount for free. So everyone is riding at least on that 40% mount. And then you can purchase 60% riding level 10 for about 5 gold, and 100% riding level 30 for even more gold. This has triggered a lot of people, I think, and I get it. A lot of people found that hitting level 40 and getting that mount back in the day was a big accomplishment, and I was the same way. But after playing on the server for a bit and thinking about it, it kind of echoes what I said above, in that honestly, I have played through vanilla so many times now, and I am tired of having to walk everywhere and struggling with speed on my class that isn't a druid, shaman, or hunter early on. I just want to get from point A to point B faster. And Turtle WoW and Project Epoch both have their own way of combating this with rental mounts or carts and questing zones. We all understand that vanilla is about the world and the journey through it. But just because I want to go fast doesn't mean I don't respect that sentiment at all. Honestly, on Bronzebeard, I felt the need to explore the world even more despite going fast, because of the World Forge items scattered throughout that give even more reason to look in places you've never gone before, because you'll get access to some pretty cool gear, also have the chance to find those epic or legendary mystic enchantments, and things like that. So it gives you a reason to want to dive into areas you may have never gone. Now, something else I see a lot of folks talking about is the Transmog on the server. There are a lot of vanity items throughout all of the Ascension realms, and they can all be kind of cross realms, so they can come into Bronzebeard. But I will say most of these can be turned off completely at the time you create your character or in your wardrobe. So it also disables the ability to see some crazy mounts or some crazy armor. On your screen, you're seeing that person in their true gear and just on a basic, like regular vanilla mount. Nothing more than that. Now, even with this, there are still some cosmetic items you still can't turn off, like costumes or wings that a lot of people don't like. But Dutch actually addressed this on Discord recently in that he wants to be able to give each player more granular control over Transmog in the future, so there is a chance that you could turn even more off. But the really crazy transmogs, you can just turn off and forget about them and not even notice that they're there at all. Also, another feature that was recently added is the ability to turn off level scaling on the server. And to be honest with you, the level scaling isn't really that bad. And this is one of those features that I came in not really liking at all because I've always hated level scaling, but this version of it, I don't really mind too much. The only thing this level scaling does is never allow a mob to turn gray to you. It can only turn green. So the mobs don't scale down to your level at all. So you can't be level 20 walking into burning steps and the mobs scale down to you. But this just means that you'll never outlevel a zone completely so that you can finish quests without running the risk of things turning gray. And honestly, you'll still feel powerful enough against those green mobs so you know when it's time to move on to the next zone. But if you don't like this, again, you can turn this off completely at the time you make your character or from any Destiny Weaver NPC in the major cities or beginning zones. Now, something on the server that I still am not the biggest fan of at all is the item scaling, specifically for dungeon loot, at least in my opinion. So for example, I won my first battleground at level 12, and for winning, I was given a loot cache that had 2 blue items in it, bracers from RFC and pants I think from Wailing Caverns, both scaled down to level 12. And I ran into a level 13 with a scaled down version of Tunic of Westfall because that quest isn't even available until you hit 14 or 15. Also, at level 15, you can accept the quests for Razorfen Downs, which is normally about a level 40 dungeon, that rewards a level 15 version of Vanquisher Sword. So I think all of that takes away some victories and itemization and also cheapens dungeon runs or quest rewards a bit. I've just never been a fan of item scaling in general, general in any version of WoW, especially when retail introduced it. So this isn't something that would make me stop playing the server entirely, but it is probably the biggest downside right now I found. And another controversial piece is the dungeon finder itself. There is a random dungeon finder in this, and it is scaled leveling. Now, it's not scaled to the portion that level 15 will get put into Blackrock depths, but it does stretch at the leveling spread of dungeons. So like at level 15, I tanked a Scarlet Monastery Graveyard, or you can also get something like Uldaman that someone had in my comment section. The actual difficulty of the dungeon isn't that bad. At least I haven't run into any problems at all with the ones I've done early on. There are times that the healer still has to make a call for mana, and mobs and bosses aren't melting super fast like they would in Kata, and bosses have new mechanics entirely, like RFC for example, where the last boss now has a giant AoE spike ability that you need to dodge with increased damage and health as well. And each boss also drops a crazy amount of loot. So like in Graveyard, we had every single rare up, and each rare dropped 3 blues, including 2 blues from the final boss. So it's crazy fast gearing. So while leveling, you don't have the option to run a specific dungeon through the random dungeon finder. At level 60, if you need to farm a specific piece of gear, it does let you pick a certain dungeon. But right now, through 1 to 60, 1 to 59 at least, you have to do a random dungeon. But you still do have the option to run to a specific dungeon if you want to, like physically walk there and get everybody there with you, because random dungeon finder does teleport you to the dungeon itself. And that version of the dungeon, the one where you walk to it, is not going to be scaled at all. So I'm up in the air if I like the random dungeon fighter. I've always liked the idea of getting groups together quickly. I think one of the boring parts of vanilla WoW was getting a group together for a dungeon that took forever. Eventually you couldn't find the tank, so you just give up on it after 2 hours or whatever it is. So I like having that shortcut here, but I think I would be okay with just getting automatically put into a group for a level appropriate dungeon, rather than getting into a weird scaled version of a dungeon where your party ranges from level 15 to level 40. And this is something that's also part of future versions of WoW that I just never have really liked. But to wrap up, because I think this is turning into a long one, let me give you the best answer I can when someone asks me if they should try Bronzebeard or if they should try Turtle, for example, instead. If you want an experience that's closer to how true vanilla felt, but with better versions or reworked specs completely with multiple new zones, then Turtle WoW is for you. But if you want to play a version of WoW that still sits in that 1 to 60 vanilla version of the world, but with better classes, better mobility, tons of quality of life changes, and overall faster combat, give Bronzebeard a try. In my opinion, don't worry about the cash shop. Unless you're strictly paying attention to it, you probably won't notice it at all. Also, if you don't have the time to put into WoW like you used to, but still want to play an enhanced version of Classic, Bronzebeard still might be for you. The leveling itself is about 1.5 times vanilla rates, and feels about the same speed as if you were trying to level from 1 to 60 in Wrath, so prior to getting into Outland or actual Wrath content. And with the cash shop opening up more eventually, it does give you some convenience type items that help you skip some grinds that otherwise would take up an incredibly amount of time. At the end of the day though, it's really important that you just play what you feel is fun. All of these servers are free. You don't have to pay anything to jump into Turtle or to jump onto Bronzebeard or to jump into kind of what's left of Epoch right now. So honestly, what's the harm in at least giving it a try? In my opinion, and in my experience on Bronzebeard so far, I have been having a blast. Leveling in the open world, doing the occasional battleground, running dungeons, even forming a guild with viewers and streaming it as much as I can. I think right now, with the schedule that I have, Bronzebeard is the server for me because like I said earlier, I don't have as much time to play WoW as much as I used to, because I do try to keep up with YouTube videos. I still work a 9-to-5 job. I do have a wife and toddler and friends that I spend time with. So missing a day or two on Bronzebeard doesn't feel like the end of the world because I feel like I can still catch up quickly. But that's just my spiel about the server. I personally am enjoying my time on it, but I hope my opinion at least has given you some insights on if you should try the server or not. Or maybe you share some of the same sentiments that I do. Yes, there are some things I don't like about the server, but no, none of those things are deal breaking enough for me to not want to play the server at all. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on Bronzebeard so far down in the comments. We were supposed to get a roadmap for Bronzebeard prior to launch, but that never happened, like that was never released. So as soon as we do get one, I'll be sure to share it with you guys. I have a couple more videos planned for the week, barring that roadmap is popping up, one of which is to revisit the PvP on Bronzebeard, as my previous video is basically obsolete with the new information that we have and the rework they did leading up to launch, as well as I have some news in the Turtle WoW lawsuit. So be on the lookout for those along with some more Bronzebeard streams. But thank you guys for watching. This is Double T Gaming. This one was a bit of a long one, I apologize for that, but I appreciate those who stuck with me, and I will see you guys in the next video.